All right, and we are live. KR Success Coaching. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to KR Success Coaching. We are going to be talking about the model of greatness today. We have a couple of amazing gentlemen that are with me today. I'm going to introduce both of them to you. Each of them is at the top of his game and well in touch with his greatness. And each of them is going to give you some tools for getting in touch with your own greatness today. So we're going to give folks a chance to join us. And in the meantime, why don't you look in the comment section and put in there the city that you're calling from, and make sure that we know your first name, because we're real excited to have you. Now, if you do see me looking down, it's because I have my phone and I'm in Kaya's page on Facebook just to greet everyone, and I'm excited to see you all here. So let us know where you're coming in from, and we'll get started in a moment. And in the meantime, I want to tell you a little bit about, we'll start with Kaya Redford. Kaya Redford. Now, the reason why I'm so excited this morning is because I have two senseis on the line. Mr. Les Brown has been my sensei for about a decade, and he is personally responsible for, and he doesn't even know it because I haven't told him, he is personally responsible for the next chapter of my life, which is kicking off in the next right now, like I'm coming to you from an undisclosed location because I'm becoming a world traveler because of this man, the model of greatness. The other person with us, though, is Mr. Kaya Redford, and Mr. Kaya Redford has been my sensei for about 5 years. And the first time I met him, I was speaking at an event, and he invited me to an introductory class for neuro-linguistic programming. I had never heard of neuro-linguistic programming. But when I went there, I found out that NLP is the study of human excellence. It's the study of why Michael Jordan is Michael Jordan, why Les Brown is Les Brown, and why Kaya Redford is Kaya Redford. What is it that they're doing that makes them so excellent? It is the study of the relationship among and between our neurology, the way that we think, our linguistics, the way that we speak to ourselves and to other people, and our internal programming, that voice that we have. Some of it is audible. We call it our chatterbox. And some of it is buried so deep that the conversation happens and we don't even hear it. We just say, well, I'm just like that. Or, oh, I don't know why I do that. I just do. And it may serve you, but it may not. When I joined that class with Kaya Redford that day, I realized that neuro-linguistic programming is the language of humanity. It is why we do the things that we do. So I'm going to bring Kaya forward right now and have him have that conversation with you about your excellence, about your greatness, and how you can make that happen right here, right now, today. Kaya?
Awesome, Shaune. We love Shaune so much. By the way, yes, so we met at an Empowered Woman, I think, yeah, somewhere in Beverly Hills. And I remember that moment when Shaune took the stage.
It was Bel Air, darling.
It was Bel Air, darling, yes. He took the stage, and I was just taken aback by the power, the love, the grace of this woman. She was amazing before NLP, the neuro-linguistic programming that she just talked about. She's been she's an attorney. She has a law practice in downtown LA that she's a partner in. She also has a book company, a book factory. She helps people publish books. She's also a Success NLP Master Speaker Presenter. She's spoken on stage with the incredible Les Brown, Laura Langmeyer, Bill Walsh, all the top people. I love her and adore her. The most thing that touches me about Shaune is when she's on stage, she touches people's heart, and oftentimes she makes people weep in their seats, seeing their own reflection in her. And oftentimes before she's done, she's got 1,000 hugs coming her way. So we love you, Shaune. This wouldn't be possible if it wasn't for you. I mean, I've followed for many years the incredible Les Brown, and it was because of you that we really got a close relationship. And I had the honor and privilege of being interviewed by Les. I hope you remember at KWF.
Remember it? I was in the background. If you look in the corner, there I was.
Yeah, and I got the opportunity to be interviewed by Les Brown on his show. And of course, I was a little intimidated. I'm like, oh my gosh, this man is so great. This man, I put you, Les, as the top one speaker on the planet.
Yes, and, the top number one.
I really hold to that, because there's something that you do. There's a magic that happens when you're on stage. It's so interesting. I watch YouTube videos, compilation videos where it's your voice. I went to the movies only about a month ago, and in the what are those called? The prequels movies coming out. I'm hearing your voice. It's like you are an iconic figure, an iconic name, and I want to say a quick hi to Les. I want Les to say a quick hi, then I'm going to tell us all why we are here and the purpose of the show. Les, how are you doing, my brother?
Better than good, better than most, and sometimes even better than that. Thank you.
I love that. I love that. First, we want to say, Les, we are so honored and so grateful that you are here with us. May you have 20, 30 years more with us. I know that you've had some health challenges in the past up until now, and there's something about you that you have a will to be here to change the world, and you are a fighter. So from the whole Facebook community, from all the Fortune 500 companies, we say we love you, God loves you, and we are honored for your presence and honored for as much time as you get to share with us on this beautiful journey called life.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Awesome. All right. So Les, so what'd you do this morning? How was your day so far?
It's been a great day. I've got up preparing for our conversation today and reflecting on this place where I am in life. And it's been heartfelt, it's been challenging, and it has been definitive in terms of defining what direction that I'm going in my life. I'm in this place where the Russian author Leo Tolstoy said, as I face inevitable death, what in the meaning and purpose of my life that will not be undone or destroyed when I'm gone? And so this past week, I had an experience coming back from London speaking, had severe pain in my body, thought it was sciatica, but it was the reoccurrence of cancer. And I remember being at the Cleveland clinic where I am now, and they came in the room and said, we need to have a conversation with you. And I said, I understand what you're about to say. You're about to tell me that cancer is eating 40% of my T1 vertebrae. And they said, no, not just that, but your T1 vertebrae, your T2, your T3, and your C7. It's metastasized to 7 areas. And I smiled, and the oncologist said, why are you smiling? I said, 7 is my lucky number. I said, I was born February 17th. I wanted 7 children. 7 is my lucky number. But what I did during that time, cancer is cells going crazy. And when I realized, as I was going through all the tests and preparing for an MRI, I made a pact with God. I said, when I come through this, my goal is to be in alignment with my purpose. And my purpose is to train people to tell their story, to change the world. And that's what I will focus all my time and energy on. And that's where I am. And I welcome this opportunity for us to talk.
So Les, I hear you say you have greatness in you. Can you define greatness?
To me, and there are certain things that words cannot encompass the symbolism thereof, but I say when you're pursuing your greatness, you don't know what your limits are, so you act like you don't have any. I heard you define neuro-linguistic programming, and you talked about the mind, you talk about the words, and you talk about the programming. And what I deal with is the fact that we have been engineered for greatness, but we have been indoctrinated and programmed to fail. And so when I speak, my goal and objective in the training that we provide is, one, to give a person a vision of themselves beyond their mental conditioning and their circumstances, number one. Two, to decrease the level of unconscious self-loathing that cause people to sabotage themselves, drugs and alcohol, and engage in behavior that will destroy their future. And three, increase their sense of worthiness, where they come to believe that life is God's gift to them, and how they live their life is their gift to God.
That's simple and beautiful and full of dignity. Now, Kaya.
Yes.
I would love for you to bridge for us the connection between what Les just said and how he defines greatness, and how others might be able to understand how we build greatness in our lives through certain aspects of ourselves, and how those aspects are entirely within our own control.
Absolutely, yes. This is a great conversation about greatness. As you may notice up here, we have models of excellence. And what NLP really is about the same thing that Les is talking about. Greatness, we can use the word excellence, we can use the word greatness. I really want to connect with Les today, because I truly believe there's a lot of people out there like me, like Shaune, like our viewers, who want to make the world a better place, who want to transform the world. And we know that when we change, we can actually change the world around us. And so how do we tap into that greatness? How do we tap into that excellence? So many of us have seen Les for many, many years. We've heard the "I was hungry" story, right? We've been motivated, inspired by him. But what we want to do, with your permission, with his permission, we actually want to take a step back, and we want to look into what makes Les Les. What makes Les the best speaker, presenter, communicator, transformational vehicle on the planet? The man that when he opens his mouth, he touches hearts in ways that nobody else can. Just to share with you, so I'm an NLP trainer's trainer. I'm a timeline therapy trainer's trainer, hypnosis trainer's trainer, and a behavioral analyst. And even myself, I realized there's a lot more growth. I really don't know anything. I know a few things, but I really don't know anything. So he's
being very modest, folks. He was trained by the inventors of the technology.
Yeah, so I definitely know that. And yet there's something about Les that makes him so unique and so different. And that's what this conversation is about. It's about, how does Les do what Les does? How does he have the lasting impact that he has? And so as we look at that, and by the way, I want to give a shout out to ALA Ascension Leadership Seminars in San Diego, as well as KR Success Coaching, our company. I want to give a shout out to Brad and Jenna and to leader Lori, because I've been learning about opening my heart and communicating more from my heart. And that's definitely a question that I want to ask Les. How does he communicate from here? Because a lot of people don't have that same quiet touch that he has. But Les, I'm going to start off with this. In NLP, we talk about the model of excellence, the model of greatness. And what we've learned is that you must find a model of excellence, a model of greatness. You must identify in your business who is that model of excellence or greatness is, whether it's in real estate, whether it's as a speaker presenter, whether it's in sports. And when you find that person, then what you want to do is you want to download their model of excellence. Now, what you see here is, I'd like for us to imagine, right before I ask Les some questions, I'd like for you to imagine that there's a building here. And on the side of the building is this scaffolding. This scaffolding, you know, we've got the horizontal beams, you've got the vertical beams, and this scaffolding supports this structure. And I know everybody watching here live would agree with this statement that the structure, that is supported by Les's being, the way he bees, actually creates outstanding results. So I'm going to write down outstanding results. Outstanding results as a model of greatness, model of excellence. So the question we want to learn is, what is this model? What is this model that makes him so excellent, so great? And then what we want to do is we want to see if we can download that model in us so we can make the change, be the change in the world that we see Les makes. Yes?
Yes.
Is that a good explanation, Les?
Yes.
And how about you, Shaune? Anything you want to share on that before I?
No, you got it. You got it. Let's just see
Let's build this. Let's build this. Indulge me. Indulge me with this fun exercise. All right. So Les, I'm going to start with. By the way, as you answer these questions, you can answer from you as you are today, or you can answer from you as you are in your peak, whatever your peak is for you. In other words, if today represents to you, this is my peak, this is my my 1,000 out of 10. If your peak represents when you spoke in front of 100,000 people at that football stadium, whatever the peak is, and the reason why I'm asking this is we're very particular. What we want to do is we want to download the model from the time when you were, in your own determination, the most on fire, the most on a roll, the most unstoppable, the most resourceful, the most impactful. That could be right here, right now, today. It could have been a year ago, 5 or 10 years ago. Which time would you like to take as a reference to answer the questions we're about to ask you, Les?
I would like to take as a reference when I spoke in the Georgia Dome, speaking to over 80,000 people. That would be the model that I would use.
Yes, that's exactly what I'm so glad. I was meditating on this last night, and I said, you know what? I bet you there was a time when he was just. I don't think any success coach has ever spoken to 80 to 100,000 people in a stadium. You are the only person in recorded history that I'm familiar with that's done that. So let me ask you this question, Les. At that peak, at that moment, leading up to that moment, having an interview with Les Brown back then, and Les Brown as it leads to today, what was your purpose?
My purpose was to distract, dispute, and inspire.
Can you repeat that?
Distract, dispute, and inspire. Mike Williams, who is the author of the book called The Road to Your Best Stuff, has been my mentor and strategist. And the way that he taught me as a speaker, he said, in order to become successful and become a dominant voice and become a great speaker, you have to make yourself stand out by creating impact to transform people's lives, because impact drives requests and income. As a result, I get over 3,000 requests a year. In neurolinguistic programming, the basic challenge or opportunity, or where I go to another place, is that the speaking industry has been influenced a great deal by the Dale Carnegie course. They teach, tell them what you're going to tell them, and then tell them what you told them. When you are implementing a modality like neurolinguistic programming, you're speaking from your mind. when you are engaged in a process of speaking to 80,000 people, and your goal is to transform their lives individually and collectively, your goal is to orchestrate an experience that comes from the heart. Words spoken from the heart enter the heart. How people live their lives, as you know, is a result of the story they believe about themselves. We're engineered for greatness, but we have been programmed to fail. So the goal when I speak is to distract them from their current story. That's the first thing, with my story. And then through the execution of my story and the values and the things that I picked up in this thing called life, when I train speakers, I tell them who you are behind the words are far more important than the words that you speak. That through the execution and delivery strategically, your story, you dismantle their current belief system. Distract them from this story, dismantle their current belief system, distract, dispute, and inspire. Inspire them to become, as Mother Teresa would say, to become a pencil in the hand of God and start writing a new chapter with their lives. And so the goal is to create an experience. Speaking industry has been hijacked, where the goal for most speakers is to speak to get people to run to the back of the room to purchase a product called the 1-2 step. Have a seminar, let people come free or low price, and then sell them to the back of the room. My goal is, I don't know if I ever see you again. I have no clue. So my goal is to take you out. I'm an assassin. I am on a mission to destroy your current vision of yourself so that I'm orchestrating an experience. Most speakers think using various techniques and information and presentation and hypnotic strategies, they can transform an audience to create the thirst for their product. My goal is to orchestrate an experience. Oliver Wendell Holmes said that once a man or woman's mind has been expanded with an idea, concept, or experience, it can never be satisfied to going back to where it was. I believe that if information can transform people, everybody would be skinny, rich, and happy. So the key is to create a significant emotional event so that as a result of them being in your presence, Kaya, and when you speak because you have an energy signature, when you speak because your voice contains a frequency, that when you speak, that you will impact them at the cellular level. And because they heard Kaya, when they leave your presence, they'll feel better about themselves by talking about Kaya, on how Kaya transformed their lives.
Oh, ladies and gentlemen, we have a significant emotional event for you today. Kaya is about to ask Les Brown a series of questions that are going to reveal to you exactly how he developed this mindset. Not what the mindset is, but what's behind the mindset. How did it get here? And how do you do the same thing? Kaya?
You know what? I'm just going to be my most authentic self right now. I just had a massive breakthrough.
Woo!
I just had a massive breakthrough. Yes, wow. I'm an assassin. I had a massive breakthrough because I completely concur with everything you're saying. I am working on myself to speak from my heart and to get out of my head and get into my body is part of the reason why I'm working with the amazing Essential Leadership in San Diego. Les, you have so much wisdom. I'm actually going, after this is over, I'm going to review it and I'm going to write notes on what you said. But what I'd like to do, Les, is I'm going to touch on exactly how you download your message and feed it from your heart. in about the middle area here when we get to emotions. So I'm going to get right back to that point. The very next question I have for you, Les, is that's your purpose: distract, dispute, inspire. What's your motivation and your why? And I ask that because some people would think your purpose is exactly the same as your motivation and your why. And it may indeed be the same thing for you in the way you process those two words, or something different may come up. What would you say at that time? 80,000 people in the stadium. What was your motivation and what was your why?
As I said, I'm an assassin. Kaya, in order for you to gain your life, your real life, you must lose your life as you currently know it. This life that has been given to you by the world. And so our motivation when we speak, when we train as coaches, as presenters, is to get people to become aware, self-awareness. Who are you really? Most people die at age 25 and don't get buried until they're 65. They don't have a clue as to who they are. They've gone through life living out the opinions and the expectations of others. So our goal is to break the spell, to expand the level of awareness so that we can release what Elizabeth Browning would call the imprisoned splendor, so that we can begin to let them come to that place, as Shakespeare talked about, the forte Brutus, it's not in our stars, but in ourselves, that we are underlings, so that they can stand from a place of power. As Socrates says, that what lies before us and what lies behind us is of small consequence to what lies within us. To get them to go to that place, to that place where I was the other day when doctors looked at me and said, get your affairs in order. To most people, that means surrendering, giving up. To that meant me garnering my mental, emotional, and spiritual resources. Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things will be added unto you. And the kingdom, they said, when shall it come? They shall say, it's neither lo there, lo here. Behold, the kingdom of God is in you. That the resources, everything you need is in you. That kingdom, that untapped resource is voice activated. And so when we speak, we're activating the kingdom, the unlimited potential in others. When we speak, we're activating in people and giving them an access to what Howard Thurman talked about. He said, there's something in each and every one of us that waits and listens to the voice of the genuine in yourself. It will be perhaps the only guide you will ever hear. And if you cannot hear it all of your life, your days will be spent on the ends of strings that somebody else pulls. Pulling your own strings. When Wayne talked about that most people go through life not knowing that somebody else is manipulating our strings with the weapons of mass distractions, because we live in a world where we're focused on the outer as opposed to beginning to go within, to take some time for quiet listening, to discover and to listen to that still small voice within.
Wow, I love it, Les. Les, quick question on the spiritual aspect. What makes the difference between a speaker or what's the difference between a person that's coaching or speaking that isn't downloading from spirit versus someone that is? Clearly you are. So what difference is it in the way, because you've coached a lot of speakers, someone who actually is downloading and coming is a highly spiritual person versus someone who is more in the mental frame?
Well, one of the things that, as we look at ourselves and look at our goals, Booker T. Washington said, judge a man not by what he's accomplished, but what he had to overcome for his accomplishment. Because in order to do something you've never done, you've got to become someone you've never been. So what you do when you speak and when you coach people, you are inspiring them to step out and get out of their head into their greatness and live that life that has been waiting on them. And that life that's waiting on them can only come to the surface when they're operating outside of their comfort zone, when they become risk takers. This God said, if you're not willing to risk, you can't grow. And if you can't grow, you can't become your best. And if you can't become your best, you can't be happy. And if you can't be happy, then what else is there? So most people, and when I speak, I said, live full, die empty. Most people die full because they weren't willing or have not been in an environment that challenges them to get out of their head and into their greatness, to leap and to grow their wings on the way down, to walk by faith and not by sight, to challenge themselves, to trust themselves and know that there's a difference between thinking positive and spiritual knowing. And when you are coming from that place within spirit, there's a dimension about us that we can express, things that we can tap into, things that we can do that eye has not seen, ear has not heard, nor is in the heart of mankind what God has in store for us. But most people never go there because they are living a shallow life. That's why pursuing and being willing to go to the deep, being willing to challenge yourself, being willing and understanding that you will fail your way to success, understanding that you always at any given moment, regardless of what you're going through, that you are self-definitional, that you define who you are and how you're going to deal with what you're facing.
So Les, how does someone get out of their head? For a lot of people, me included, I'm going to be the first to admit. How does someone, or were you born that way? Is it something that you learned over time? Is it something you had naturally? How does someone get out of their head and get into their heart? What's the daily practice or ritual, or what do you teach people on how to do that?
Kaya, all of us are born the same way, dumb, naked, and speechless. It takes coaching. It's what you do. You can't read the label when you're locked in the box. It's very important to have someone in your life who can see what you can't see. And so you can't see the picture when you're in the frame. Muhammad Ali said, I'm the greatest, but he never won a championship without Angelo Dundee. Michael Jordan, considered one of the greatest basketball players, never won a championship without Phil Jackson. You think about Serena Williams, one of the most dominant tennis players on the planet. She has a coach. So you have to have someone with trained eyes and experience, and that can see what you can't see, that can take you to a place within yourself that you can never go by yourself.
I love that. Shaune, your thoughts on this topic?
My thoughts on this topic are very simple. Your why should make you cry. If your why doesn't make you well up and catch your breath in your throat and go somewhere to fantasy land, you're not thinking high enough. You're not thinking big enough. You're not thinking deep enough.
But you don't even get a chance to go to your why, Shaune, because of the psychic damage. Just think about the fact that we represent a group of people who were brought to this country and treated less than animals. Say we were 3/4 human. Think that the country that was called an enlightened country in the free world enslaved us and said we were 3/4 human beings to justify enslaving us, that it was a capital offense for you to learn how to read, that over 3,000 Black people were lynched for brushing up against a horse. You think about it, I'm preparing, I started reviewing things, meditating when I used to ride to Miami Beach with Sam Axelrod, born in Liberty City, an abandoned building on a floor, being adopted, being labeled educable, mentally retarded. I can see the signs now. I'm 73. I see the signs now in my mind, signs that said Jews, dogs, and coloreds not allowed. I could see the yellow line on the bottom of the floor of the bus when I got on the bus, paying the same fare that white people paid, but I couldn't sit up front because of the color of my skin. Living in a culture where between the ages of 0 and 5, where we develop permanent personality characteristics, that Black people learn to hate themselves because of the culture that we live in. And other people learn to hate us because of the culture as young as 3 months of age. So you can't even get to the why until you help people, first of all, to get a vision of themselves beyond that indoctrination, beyond that culture that treats you less than.
Yes.
And so when you look at the suicide rate in our country, where over 3,000 people committed suicide last year, more people died from suicide than traffic accidents, in a country where people try and outrun Jeeps barefooted to get here, the land of opportunity, try and outswim sharks, risk their life to get here, and yet took their life. Why? What would cause that? A young 10-year-old boy the other day, as I was talking to a friend, his aunt's son committed suicide. And I submit to you that level of humiliation, that level of being bullied, that level of being treated less than, caused that person to feel that they weren't worth it and that life wasn't worth it. And they gave up. Robin Williams committed suicide, and they just saw an uptick in suicides in this country since Robin Williams took his life.
You know, what you're describing, Les, is the symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder. The nation is going through that right now with the hashtag Me Too movement and the hashtag Time's Up movement. And we saw a very high profile resignation at the White House. A man accused of beating his wives. And you know, I'm a former foster kid that hit me where I live. And I noticed that PTSD it's something that can hit you out of the blue, and you can think that you are doing your thing and living your life, but you got to deal with that conversation that's going on beneath the surface, because it does affect your life. It affected my life. I never married. I never had any children. PTSD.
Yeah.
Neuro-linguistic programming has a fix for PTSD. And part of that is getting to know more about that scaffolding that makes us who we are. So Kaya, why don't you take us a little bit further up?
Before Kaya takes you there, there's one dimension about us that no one can reach but us. And that is the imagination. That there's a place in neurolinguistic programming, most certainly uses that as well. But there's a place that I remember being beaten. I was 15 years old. I was among some kids that had been picked up randomly because of a service station robbery that took place in Overtown, Liberty City. And we were taken to the police station, and we were stripped and beaten and drug all on the shower floor. I remember my mother coming to the courthouse and walking past me. She didn't recognize me. I remember the white cops that made us stand up. We were naked and used clothes hangers to put around our genitals and struck you first, asked, "Did you do it?" and said no, and then struck you and dared you to fall, And I remember adjusting my mind to say, I can't fall. And under ordinary circumstances, that he had just come up and clubbed me in the head, I'd have dropped to the ground. But because I knew that had I fell in that shower as he jerked that hanger, holding my testicles and my penis in that hanger, that I could lose my life. that the pain was perhaps beyond what I could ever begin to imagine. And I remember feeling just the thumps, bending back and coming back again and again, and heard one say, oh, this one is trying to be tough. But I remember saying, I will not fall. And I believe that that place where I went is a place where all of us go when we go through some stuff in life. And some people handle it better than others. There are people who psychologists call skaters. You take their eyesight and you got a Ray Charles. You take the ability to walk and you got a Roosevelt. That there are people who know how to access that automatically, but most people don't. And I believe that neurolinguistic programming does provide a process for you to access a part of yourself that most people never go to.
So Les, you know what? I totally get that the emotions that you tapped into because of the experiences that you had in the past, you've actually, that is a big part of your why and your purpose, would you say?
Oh, without question. Absolutely. I mean,
Yeah. So
given what people who look like me go through, you just can't tell us, oh, just thinking positive and have a burning desire and be a possibility faker and everything will work out all right. It ain't that kind of party. You got to be hungry.
You got to be hungry. Yes. All right. So Les, I wrote down emotions here. Going back to the Georgia Dome, 80,000 people. People that are watching this right now that have to get up and or that want to get up or are blessed to get up to give a speech. What is the emotions you're feeling in that moment right before you go out on stage in front of 80,000 people? So what are the emotions, not the thought process, not the internal voice or the chatter just yet, but what's the emotions that you're tapping into right before you walk out on stage?
There's an affirmation that I repeat to myself before I speak. And that affirmation is more of thee, less of me. More of thee, less of me. That one of the things that helped me to stand out as a speaker, that 99% of speakers are scripted and they regurgitate the script. So when you speak from the mind, those words enter the mind. I teach speakers how to speak from their heart, how to speak from their story, that you never make a point without a story and you never tell a story without a point. And that as a result of that story, you're able to expand a person's mind, number one. Number two, touch the heart. And three, ignite the spirit. If we don't achieve those three things as a coach, as a speaker, as a trainer, where you expand the mind, touch the heart, and ignite the spirit, that person becomes inspired to make some new choices, to build and to create a new life, to embrace some new habits. You know, Warren Buffett said habits are too light to be felt until they're too heavy to be broken, to help them to break out of the habits that's been ruining them and sabotaging their lives, and now cause them to look at their lives with new eyes and take their lives in another direction. And so that's the goal when we speak, individually and collectively. That's the goal. That's what we want to ignite when we speak. And so we have to be in alignment mentally and emotionally and spiritually and with our energy, because you have an energy signature and I have an energy signature. There's some people that will hear both of us, but there's some people, Kaya and Tashawn, that because of your energy signature, when you speak, that they'll never be the same again. When you speak, it will jar them. It will reach them at a deeper level. If people Google the movie trail of 1517 Paris, the young man was listening to my voice. And when I spoke, he said it gave him the courage to confront the terrorists on the train. And so all of us, I believe that through our energy signature, through the frequency of our voice, that when we speak with power, feeling, and conviction, and from a place of spiritual knowing, that we have the ability to be transformative and to orchestrate an experience with an audience that they die to who they are now to give birth to who they are to become.
Les, that's beautiful. So I've written a few things here: mind, heart, spirit, more of thee, less of me, energy signature, power, conviction, and knowing. Right before you went out on stage in the Georgia Dome, what was the emotions specifically? Like joy, happiness, excitement,
Excuse
desire.
me, it was fear. He was
Fear.
hiding in the bathroom.
Yeah. So that's my
It was
question.
fear.
What was the exact emotions you were feeling right before you went out? Only
I
emotions.
think it was a porta potty, wasn't it, Les?
Yes, I went to the bathroom and I locked myself in. And Mike Williams, the author of The Road to Your Best Stuff, he knocked on the door. He said, "Brownie, come out. Dexter Yeager says the band is stalling. They're waiting for you to come take the stage." And I said to him, "Mike, I'm so afraid. I can't hear the voices. I can't do it."
Wow.
And he said, "Brownie." I said, "Yes." He said, "Can you hear me?" I said, "Yes." He said, "So you're afraid?" I said, "Yes." He said, "Brownie?" I said, "Yes." He said, "Don't you want to make your mama proud?" And I said, "Yes." He said, "Come out, be afraid, but make Mamie Brown proud today."
Wow.
I said,
So
"Oh, yeah." I said, "Mike, don't use my mama on me." He said, "She's going to be proud of you. Come on out." I opened the door. I said, "Well, will y'all pray for me?" So they prayed for me. I grabbed their hands and put them on my head. And so as I was going up the steps, he said, "You make her proud. You pretend you're in your living room and you make her proud." And I said, "I will, Mike. I will." And I went up and I gave the speech. And I don't remember the speech.
Okay. So we're gonna continue on this journey. So that's the emotions. So fear. So you had a fear of public speaking, or the fear of the magnitude of the moment when you were speaking to 80,000 people. Unless I can tell you, there's a lot of people right now are going to be happy to hear that, because they have fear. And you know, I get fear. I'm sure Shaune gets fear sometimes, and we make it in our mind that we're unique. But the very top best speaker in the world, at the peak of his speaking career, also was experiencing fear. So that just says it's a human condition. What I love about what you shared was that there was the voice that came in and said, you know, make mama proud. So the why, or the moment, was superseded by something that tapped into a higher value to you.
Yes, what he did was he overrode the fear by speaking to my heart. Fear, Zig Ziglar calls fear false evidence appearing real. Faith, finding answers in the heart. He gave me faith. When he looked at me, his look was, "I believe you can do this." And so that ignited the faith in me to speak from my heart. That ignited, as I thought about my mother and I would make her proud, that there was no way that I was going to allow fear to cause me not to come out on that stage and take that microphone and transform that audience. That my love for her and my willingness to do something that could make her proud, something that would say, "I'm so glad that you chose me and my brother, that you chose to adopt us. I'm speaking to you because of two women. One gave me life, the other one gave me love. God took me out of my biological mother's womb and placed me in the heart of my adopted mother." So my goal and my why, as Shaune just talked about, was to make her proud, to hear people call her and said, "Mamie, I saw your boy in the Georgia Dome, and my God, you ought to be proud of him." That was in my mind as I spoke.
I love it. I love it. I love it. All right, let's go to values. So for those of us watching here, By the way, if you haven't shared this live stream on Facebook, it's also live streaming on Les's Facebook. Please do share it. I know something I should have mentioned a little earlier. So when we talk about values, I'm about to ask Les what are his values in that moment, at that time in his life when he was at his peak. And for us all, the definition of values being what is or what was most important to him. What is or what was most important to him is what he valued the most. And NLP basically teaches us that what we value most drives our behavior, actually moves us in the direction of the thing we value. So Les, going back to that time, before you gave that speech, what did you value the most in the context of your speaking, transforming career specifically?
Yeah. Number one, that it's possible. That if anybody at any point in time in life had a goal and dream that they wanted to become reality and they made it happen, then it's possible that you can do it. Number two, that it's necessary that you make a radical change. That you don't get in life what you want, as Earl Nightingale would say. You get in life what you are. And so you must be willing to change. You must change relationship, the places, the things, the behaviors, the habits, all of those things that define you right now. Number three, it's you. You must take full responsibility. George Bernard Shaw said, the people who make it in this life, they look around for the circumstances that they want, and if they can't find them, they create them. 4 is hard, but you can do hard. I didn't do what I'm doing for years, for 14 years. I just went and saw Zig Ziglar, Dr. Norman Vincent Peale, Wayne Dyer, Dr. Dennis Waitley, Tony Robbins, because I thought it would be hard. I was labeled educable mentally retarded when I was in the 5th grade, put back from the 5th grade to the 4th grade, fail again in the 8th grade, no college training. So I thought it would be hard for me to create a level of credibility that somebody would hire me, and I could not compete with people with college education. And Mike Williams said, if you do what is easy, give yourself a pass, come up with excuses, focus on the things that you don't have as opposed to the things that you do have. If you do what is easy, your life will be hard. But if you do what is hard, your life will be easy. The next thing is that it's worth it. That you must clearly determine, as the nice cute saying, your why should make you cry. Oh, cute. Nietzsche said, if you know the why for living, you can endure almost anyhow. You must know what drives you. When I went to Poland and I saw 2 tons of Jews' hair where they'd been stripped and shaved, when I saw the clothes and the shoes of men, women, and children, when I saw the pictures going to the gas chambers of people who had been gassed and told that they were going to take showers, when I was in Auschwitz, the words kept ringing in my ear, never again. I understand that. I saw that. Sam Axelrod, that I work with, who lost his family during the Holocaust, he used to talk to me about that. So I know what it is to have a why, to say never again. And so knowing what is it that defines you, knowing where you draw the line, as Paul Robeson would say, here I stand, for I can do no other. The Nelson Mandela, who gave up 26 years of his life to break the back of apartheid. And so that why gives you that strength to do that. And then you create some momentum. It's possible, it's necessary, it's you, it's hard, it's worth it. It's done. And you create some momentum in your life, then things begin to fall in place. Things happen for you. I've been experiencing excruciating pain from cancer, and someone sent me overnight. I'd made a call to a friend named Mark Anthony, and he introduced me to one person, another person, and then overnight, I got some products that can help me.
Les, let me ask you a question on this, on the values. Did you want to finish your thought?
No, no, go ahead. I want to hear what you want to ask.
The values, it's possible, it's necessary, it's you, it's hard, it's worth it. As you're speaking, something's coming up for me. I noticed that in NLP, we talk about the values drive our behavior, and we talk about there are values that are moving away from values, where we're moving away from pain. And then there's values where we're moving towards something, we're moving towards pleasure. Tony Robbins talks about it. People usually make decisions based on either moving away from their pain, being broke, being hurt, being alone, or moving towards pleasure, which is whatever their goal or outcome is. I'm curious, would you say, are you more 50-50, moving away from pain drives you as much as moving toward pleasure? Are you more moving away from things that you don't want, or are you more wired to move towards the things that you do want and pleasure?
I'm wired from the thinking of a Horace Mann who said we should be ashamed to die until we've made some major contribution to humankind. My daughter called me one day, Ona Brown. She spells the name O-N-A, and she looks like me without a beard. And she said, "What are you doing?" I said, "Nothing in particular." I said, "What are you doing?" She said, "I'm at a traffic light. There's a cop in the center of the streets. He's directing traffic. A funeral procession is coming by." And then all of a sudden she said, "Whoa, wow." I said, "Was there an accident?" She said, "No." She said, "A hearse came by and there was only one car behind it." She said, "Dad, when I die, I want the impact of my life to be so strong that there will be a long procession of cars behind that hearse and traffic will be backed up and people will come out to celebrate the life that I have lived." And that brought tears to my eyes to hear my daughter say that, because I believe that we were born for a reason, that you were created on purpose with a purpose. And there's something in you. You were chosen one out of 400 million sperm, Taya. There's something in you. There's something that you have that in the historical context, if you don't bring it out here, the world will never be the same again.
Les, you mentioned beliefs, and that is so integral. You know, our beliefs are intricately related to our value system. Our beliefs cluster like grapes around our values. And so my question for you then is, what is it that you believe about yourself that allows you to tap into this greatness that you have so beautifully displayed today and throughout your career?
I believe I have greatness in me, and I'm Mrs. Baby Brown's baby boy. Just a minute.
Indeed, he has greatness in him. So, Kaya, talk to us for a moment about our beliefs and how that affects the way that we feel about ourselves and about our environment, and how that might affect the way that we actually manifest things in our world.
Yes, so I'm actually writing his belief. So Les, you
Yes.
said, I believe I have greatness in me. Before I answer Shaune's
I was
question,
convinced of that. I was convinced of that by my mother. When they
Convinced
told
of that
my
by-
mother that I was educable mentally retarded, my mother, she only had a third grade education. So those words didn't mean anything to her. And it reminded me of a couple that came over from Mexico that was working for me in Orlando. And during the middle of the recession, they got a job, saved enough money to buy a home. And somebody asked me, how were they able to do that and can't even speak the language? I said that was their advantage, because they didn't understand that we were in a depression, that we had a recession. So they didn't know. So they were living like it did not exist. They found a way to make it happen. And so when my mother was told that, she believed that my subconscious mind was in my behind.
There's the laugh that we all love, Facebook family.
Yes.
All right, Les, so what I want to tap into for all of us that are out there, want to speak, we want to transform the world, want to come from our heart. You've got one belief. I believe I have greatness in me. Go back to Georgia Dome, right? So that day, that week prior, leading up to that moment, the peak of your career, what were the beliefs that you had about yourself in addition to, I believe I have greatness in me, the beliefs of which supported you to be the #1 speaker, coach, transformation vehicle on the planet? What other beliefs did you have at that time about yourself?
Number one, I know who you are. I know who you are. You were born to do this. Answer the call. And 2, give it everything you have. At that moment, I embraced who I am as a person, as a speaker. And that moment, I said to myself, this is what I'm supposed to do. This is me. This is me. And I'm going to give it everything in me. And every time I speak, I remember reading an interview by James Brown, who was called the hardest working man in show business. They asked him, what was the best performance you've ever given? And I'm sure they thought he was going to say, well, when I was at the Apollo Theater years ago. And he said, the last one. That every time I speak, I don't know the actor's name. He said he was competing with this guy in him. That every time I speak, I'm competing with Les Brown. I have not given my best speech yet. And so every time I grab that microphone, I told my children, Kaya, not too long ago, I said, if they said that I have died, don't let them embalm me for 3 days. Come down to the morgue, put a microphone in my hand. And if I don't grab it and say, you got to be hungry, you say, yeah, it's gone now.
Les, you are absolutely incredible. Incredible. Just for clarification, Les, when you said the belief of I know who you are, because I want to make sure everybody gets what you mean by that. When you say I know who you are, meaning I know who you are, you yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. I was talking to myself.
Got it.
I was talking to my inner man. I said, I know you are, I know you're in there. I know who you are. I'm supposed to do this. I need you to come out today. We have a power voice. And when we come from that place, when we speak, we're able to reach people beyond the ordinary conversation or speaker, because that power voice is able to penetrate and impact you mentally, emotionally, and spiritually and at the cellular level.
Les, let me jump in right there. I think we just hit something that's so magical. When you say, I know who you are, speaking about yourself, and you tap into that power voice, what we want to do is we want to figure out what is that. When you say, I know who you are, we know you're talking about the inner man, the inner being, the inner spirit. What is the belief you have about who you are as the inner man? Who is the inner man?
That inner man, that inner spirit transcends everything, speaks to everyone, regardless of their pay job, their religion, their belief system. It impacts, it has an omnipresence and power to move people from all walks of life, even with a translator.
Are you talking about like basically the God essence, God spirit inside you?
Yes, I remember speaking in Hong Kong, and many of the people could not speak English. But I remember at the end of my speech, they were saying, I'm hungry.
I'm hungry.
I'm hungry.
I'm hungry.
You gotta be hungry.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. So let's move on. The next one is meta programs. I'm going to write that in a moment. For those of us that are wondering, what is meta programs? It's a technical term we have in NLP. It basically just means the filters through which we see the world, how we process the world. There's actually a bunch of them, but I don't have time to go through them all. But I'm going to ask you two or three fast ones just to get an idea of how you filter and you process the world in front of you. Here's the first one. It's called the frame of reference filter. How do you know you've done a good job in the context of speaking, presenting? Do you know inside, or does someone have to tell you?
Well, first of all, you know from when you're on the podium, because the first thing that I do is I deliver a needs assessment to the organization, to the CEO, the marketing director, the top sales performers, and I have them to answer questions about the occasion, the purpose of the occasion, the people they've had in the past, what's the goal and objective, what is it that they want to achieve. And then I incorporate the things that they tell me that they want in that, so that that experience will be worth them gathering their people there and making that investment. And during the presentation, I know by the time I cover the last points that I've incorporated the stories and examples. I interview not only the CEO and the marketing director and the top performers, I go into the audience and I collect stories. And I said, if you were in my position, what are the things that the people here need to know? And I marry that. And I bring those stories and those examples and those quotes to the stage. And as a result of my incorporating the things from the people who wrote the check and the people who are going to hear me and my story, bringing it together using humor, statistics, using stories, using things that will give them insight and challenge them and stretch them, that by the time I get to the end of the presentation, you can stick a fork in it. It's done.
Awesome. I love that answer. So I've got that needs assessment and you marry them. I'm going to ask you one more meta programs question. Chunk size. How you process information, or how you like to process information. If you and I were going to start a project together, which we are, right? Would you want to know all the details first, or would you want to know the big picture first?
I would want to know the big picture first. And I want you to tell me succinctly, the best speakers make the fewest words go the farthest.
Perfect. So you'd want to know the big picture first. And here's the next part of that. Would you even need to know the details, or would you just focus on the big picture?
No, I want the details too.
He wants the details too.
Yes, I want the details.
Okay, perfect. Awesome. Okay, so those are two good ones. I'm going to then go transition to the next one, which is, this is going to be huge for, by the way, our clients are Fortune 500 companies. Les's clients, definitely the people he transforms the world with, are a lot of Fortune 500 companies as well. So we train Bank of America, Wells Fargo, Century 21, Keller Williams, Remax, New York Life. We work with the mayor's office, doing conflict resolution trainings for the city. We work with veterans that have PTSD. So we do all these things. And for those of you that are in your industries, and I might have mentioned some of them, financial services, real estate, multi-level marketing, this next piece is extremely important. And I'm sure Les is going to concur with this. The behaviors, the daily habits, or you could call them the rituals. Going back to your peak, Les, what was the behaviors, the daily habits, or the rituals that you did on a daily basis to, as Tony Robbins would say, prime yourself, get yourself in that state for that level of performance? He's laughing. I love it.
I'm laughing. I heard Earl Nightingale when I was 10 years old, Shining the Shoes of Mr. Swiderski. And one of those recordings, he said, write down one major goal you want to achieve on a 3x5 card. I wrote down, I am the world's #1 inspirational orator. On the flip side, he said, write Matthew 7:7, ask and it shall be given. Seek and ye shall find. Knock and it shall be open. For everyone that asketh, receive it. He that seeketh, find it. And to him that knocketh, it shall be open unto them. And read that 3 times a day. The next step. The average person reads 1 book a year. If you discipline yourself to read 1 book a month, considering that knowledge is the new currency, in 5 years, when the average American would have read 5 books, you would have read 60 books. That will make you an expert. I spoke at a conference for 3 hours because one speaker didn't show up. Someone recorded, I did 217 quotes. I never repeated myself. So the ritual of reading one book a month, the ritual of reading that card 3 times a day, the ritual of listening to Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., to Malcolm X, the ritual of listening to Dr. Norman Vincent Peale. Don't allow your negative thoughts to stop you. The ritual of listening to Jim Rohn. When the end comes for you, let it find you conquering a new mountain, not sliding down an old one. The ritual of reading Winston Churchill. The truth is incontrovertible. Malice may attack it. Ignorance may deride it. But at the end, there it is. All of those things prime me for what I do.
Les, how much time do you spend, or did you spend at that time of your life reading? You said 1 per month. Are you a fast reader?
No, because I read out loud.
You read out loud. So you would.
I was developing my voice. Your voice is a muscle. This is not my original voice. I had to get access to corporations, and the voice that I had would not have done that. That voice was Les Brown, the disc jockey. Look out, baby. This is me, LB Triple P. Les Brown, you playing Papa. There were none before me. There will be none after me. Therefore, that makes me the one and only. Young and single, love to mingle, certified, bona fide, indubitably qualified to bring you satisfaction and a whole lot of action. Look out, baby. I'm your love man.
I love it. Let's go. Shaune and I are going to give you a round of applause on that one. Wow.
Yes, indeed.
All right,
Yes,
so
indeed.
Les, I have to totally concur with what you're saying. There's something about that voice, because I was, like I said earlier on, I was in a movie theater, and what do they call it when the prequel for the movie, or the advertisement for the next movie?
Yeah, the trailer.
The trailer for the movie, and I hear this voice, and automatically I'm like, oh my gosh, that's Les Brown. Your voice by itself, even without your likeness, your voice seems like it transcends, it speaks to humanity in a way that very few people, Martin Luther King Jr. for sure, had that voice. There's something poetic about you. There's something that's rhythmic.
You said it, Kaya. You said it. It's his humanity.
It's his humanity.
His humanity comes through.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. All right, so let's go on to the next one. Strategies. So regarding strategies. Strategies. So most people hearing strategies are going to think, oh, what's the strategy to doing this? Actually, in NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, the study of human excellence, the strategies are just internal processes that go on inside our brain that lead us to create an outcome, hopefully a successful outcome. We also have strategies for not getting out of bed. We also have strategies for procrastination. We also have strategies for being angry all the time. And we have strategies for the things that we do. So I'd like to tap into the strategy. Maybe when you were speaking the Georgia Dome, we could go with that, or maybe let's do something else. The moment you decided that this is you are a speaker, coach, transformational, like how would you identify who you are as far as a career? What label do you give to your vocation specifically?
I am a catalyst for action and a messenger of hope.
A catalyst for action
and a messenger for hope.
And messenger for hope.
Yes, when you have hope in the future, that gives you power in the present.
So perfect. So I'm going to ask you a question about the strategy for that. So I'd like for you, Les, to go back to a time. Can you remember the time when you made that decision in your brain or in your heart or in your soul that you are a catalyst for action and a messenger for hope? Can you remember the time when you made that decision?
Yes.
Can you remember the specific time, the day, the moment?
I was working with a young guy named Foster. He had cancer. He was at Children's Hospital in Columbus, Ohio. And I remember them saying that he could not go outside and play because he had a disease where his bones were very brittle. but he wanted so badly to do that. And I said to him, not knowing what his condition was, I found out later. I said, Foster, every time I come here, man, you're still in bed. I said, you can get up and walk. Come on and join me. And Foster got up. And I noticed how the nurses and everybody, they were looking at me oddly. And Foster and I walked down the hall, and I was doing a little dap, you know, a little pimp walk. and people began to cry. And he walked down the hall with me, and he came back. And I remember he said to me, he said, I probably won't be here long. He said, but will you live for me? The life that I want to have? You promise me? I said, oh, Foster, don't say that. He said, no, I heard him talking. And the fact that I saw Foster walk, and his mother, when she came, he stayed out of bed that day, and they were just very impressed, and he passed 2 days later. But the fact that I was able to speak to him and to inspire him, to impress him, that my words caused him to say, I can get up, I can walk. I'll never forget that. I'll never forget Foster.
And we'll never forget you, Les Brown.
We'll never
you are truly an amazing human being.
Yes.
Thank you.
So I'm getting from that strategy that you saw, you heard, and you got this feeling.
It was a non-negotiable. Foster, get up. Come on. It was not a suggestion. It was a command. It was, I see you doing this. Get up. Come on, let's go down the hall. And I believe that all of us have the capacity to call forth something in someone at a time when they can't call it forth in themselves.
Which goes back to the whole thing with the beginning with the coach, with the Michael Jordan having Phil Jackson, Serena Williams having her coach, all of us, the best in the planet, have always had a coach. Les, who would you say has been the most instrumental coach you've ever had, or the person that inspired you to the most, or your greatest teacher, and more in a person?
Mike Williams.
Mike Williams.
Mike Williams, yes. Mike Williams, who's the author of the book, The Road to Your Best Stuff. Kaya, he talked to me between records. I was the disc jockey, the program director. He was my news director. He was only at the radio station for 6 months, only 6 months. But between me playing records and the millenniums, they don't know what records are. He talked to me. And I went from being a fast-talking DJ to having the first talk show in Columbus, Ohio called The Voice of the People, to doing editorials, to leading demonstrations of 5,000 to 10,000 people. This guy talked to me. And because of him, he expanded my vision of myself and inspired me to do things that amazed me to this day. When I look back, I shake my head. There's a song called How I Got Over. How I Got Over. Sometimes I look back and I wonder how I got over. And it has been amazing, the power of a positive relationship and what that can bring out of you. Mike Williams, he most certainly has done that and is doing that and challenging me now, because he asked me, what are you going to do before you leave here? And I said, I'm going to reduce the incarceration rate, the recidivism rate, the suicide rate. I'm going to activate people to become an active partner in pursuit of their dream, of their greatness. Those are among the things that I'm going to do. I'm going to leave the planet in better shape than how I found it.
We should all be so lucky. We should all be so lucky.
Where is Kaya? I can see you.
I don't know. I see that his picture is gone. So let's you and I chat until he gets back again. So your strategies for success. Now, you mentioned today that you did have a lot of challenges, coming along. And I'm interested in knowing how you actually moved forward in the face of such difficulties. What was it that you reached for within yourself in order to tap into that greatness, given the fact that so many things were stacked against you? Being born on the floor of an abandoned building, let's just start right there.
I think that in a short time, going through a divorce, having a nationally syndicated talk show canceled, my mother dying of breast cancer, my best friend dying, waiting on a liver transplant, and I being diagnosed at that same time within 3 months of prostate cancer, and my PSA was 2,400, which 1 to 4 is normal. I'm a 21-year cancer conqueror. During that time, my conversations with myself. Recently, I did a video that people can see on Facebook. I think you saw it when I was speaking from the Cleveland Clinic.
Yes.
And
yes.
They came in and they were dancing around the language of how to tell me that cancer had metastasized to my spine. And that they were going to go in, and they decided, rather than surgery, radiation. Mm-hmm. And I remember talking about the process. First of all, when you're dealing with the spine, that's a very delicate area. And my prayer was, God, give me my voice. And I commit to use my voice to change lives. Even if I can't move, just give me my voice. Even if I'm paralyzed, I know I can still function. I know Jose Flores, my brother from another mother. I know Jeff.
Yes.
Hart, Mr.
Jose, not a dry eye in the house. Well,
when they gave me, when they marked me on my chest and it was so close to my throat, I said, will this affect my voice? I said, can I still speak? So you might have some raspiness and some hoarseness now, like what I got now. But that was my prayer. And I said, if you give me my voice and give me more time, I promise I will honor you. I promise you I will change lives. My kids say, Dad, why are you going on Facebook and YouTube and just speaking free? People want to pay to come see you. I said, I don't care. I said, everything I have, like Paul said, I received. So many people recommended me. I heard this guy, Mamie Brown's baby boy, bring him in. If I can speak and bring somebody out of a dark place, I don't need a check for that. I just need a microphone. I just need the opportunity to speak and to be.
So what about the average person on the street, Les? What does that average person do when they find themselves losing a job and they're leaving home every day in a suit, in a tie, and they're going to sit in a park? They don't even know how to tell their spouse what has happened. How does that average person that doesn't have a Mike Williams telling them, you're more than a disc jockey, Brownie, you've got greatness in you? How does that average person tap into that greatness and make something of their lives beyond their current circumstance?
That's a very good question. When I was a kid, Shaune, we used to say, to illustrate that you couldn't do something, we would say, you have as much chance of doing that as a man going to the moon. It's considered an impossibility. 1961, John F. Kennedy called his cabinet together, looked at Werner von Braun, the most brilliant German scientist of that day, and asked, what will it take for us to beat the Russians to the moon? What will it take for us to go to the moon? They didn't have a budget. Computer technology did not exist. No one had a clue. And what governs my behavior in those types of situations that you just described, that other people have used, are 5 words. Werner von Braun spoke 5 words, and based on those 5 words, the President of the United States risked global embarrassment. Werner, what will it take for us to go to the moon? And he said, the will to do it. What will it take for you when you've lost your job, when you've lost your family, you've been wiped out by a hurricane? What will it take for you to pick up the pieces and start all over again? The will to do it. What will it take for you when you wake up in a car accident and your husband is dead and your 3 children in the back seat, they're dead too, and your aunt? What will it take for you to overcome the fact that you went to sleep at the will? The will to do it.
Wow.
Jesus, whosoever will, let him.
Very powerful.
We are back.
And Les, further to that point, the greatness and the achievement of one individual is the greatness and the achievement of all of us. 4 years later, we sat. My father, when I was, it was more than 4 years. When I was 5 years old, my father woke us up in the middle of the night and sat us in front of the television to watch man land on the moon. I believe that was 1968, was it not? And he told us, this is the future of humanity. It felt, looking at that screen, like it was our accomplishment as much as it was NASA's accomplishment. So for any of us to reach for our greatness renders greatness in all of humanity. Kaya has joined us, and he is going to take over and take us further up that scaffolding.
Okay, awesome. I apologize for the internet. Just I'm in the hills, and I think that they have a surge thing that happens once in a while, but we are back. I'm glad that I came in on the will to live.
The will to
do it.
The will to live.
Will to do it.
The will to do it. Yes.
The will to do it. Yes. Awesome. All right. So let's jump to the next one, which is self-talk. One could say language. In a school that I've gone to recently, they have a different word for it, but basically talk about it as this voice in our head. Mm-hmm. The voice in our head is actually either telling us, you have greatness within you. It's telling us all these wonderful things about who we are and what we can accomplish. And that voice sometimes is also saying these other things. So we want to hear from the one and only Les Brown. What is his voice in his head saying to him seconds before he walks out on stage at the Georgia Dome in front of 80,000 people? What is that voice? So it's not the mantras or the rituals that you did the morning. It's that voice right before you hit the stage. What is your voice saying to you? What's the self-talk?
I'm going to take them out.
I'm going to take them out. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. All right. So it goes back to the assassin.
Yes.
Yes.
Because what we have to do is to destroy this current vision they have of themselves that has been given to them by the world. Be ye not conformed to the world, be ye transformed by renewing of your mind. All of us are born unique, but most of us die copies. So the goal is to kill out who they are now to give birth to who they are to become at the end of the presentation.
That's so powerful. So that's kind of like the sting, right? It's a voice that gets you to penetrate at the neural level in the cells of their being with your voice. So that's the reason. So perhaps that I'm going to take them out, the assassin, is the power behind the Les Brown voice. And
Yes.
when we receive that as love, because you're backing that power with a message of that you have greatness within you. So when we hear you and we see you, I don't experience it as you're an assassin to get rid of my problems. I experience you as you're touching my heart and you're moving me and moving humanity. But now we get a look at what it takes to have that message penetrate to the soul of humanity. And it takes the, I'm going to take you out.
Yes.
I love it. That's another breakthrough. Put right that, you guys on here, Facebook, I know Shaune's been. I want you to write down what's your biggest breakthrough so far in the comment section. Hearing Les Brown download his model of greatness, his model of excellence to us. All right. So I want you to write down. The next thing is sales. Okay. A bird, someone said to me that you have something with sales. I don't know. I heard it from somewhere. How do you interpret the word sales in the context of what you do, Les?
Well, there's an old saying, you can take a horse to the water, but you can't make him drink. However, I believe that you can communicate strategically and create a thirst where they want to drink.
Okay.
And to me, sales is about cultivating the thirst. There's an old saying that if you build the best mousetrap, the world will be the path to your door. That time is gone. If you know how to market, if you know how to create a thirst, the world will be the path to your door and you don't even have to have a mousetrap.
So how do you create the thirst? So I want you to go back again, Georgia Dome, because you were entrusted to speak to an audience of 80 to 100,000 people. And if I remember watching one of the videos where you talk about the story, they were wondering who could possibly give a speech to an audience of that size and move the audience, and they thought of you. So my question in the context of sales, in our NLP trainings, we say sales is merely sharing the value that you bring to the marketplace, to the world. It's about, sharing the value, right? So in the context of sales back at that time, how did you see salesmanship back at that time such that you were able to sell the value that you brought to people and have people trust you and believe in you and your capability of moving an audience like that?
You do that by creating openings in your story so that people take ownership of your story and see the future through your eyes. That now an expanded vision of what's possible for them. So
it's your stories and your metaphors that you use that are from the heart, your own personal experience, that through which they see themselves through your story. So you create an opening for them to come in. I want to ask you a question. Yes.
When you look at your life and going back, coming forward, what was the most defining moment, the first one that you had that caused you to become the person that you are now? Where were you? What did you experience? Who was there with you?
Is it okay if it's a painful one that ended up with a negative thought pattern?
Yes.
Yeah, because I have the ones where things happened and I was propelled to move forward, but I have the one that sticks in my head was when I was in boarding school. Basically, my dad was a workaholic. He was hardly ever there. My mom was an alcoholic. And we lived in a third world country. My dad was heading up a petroleum company there. He was gone. My mom was drinking. And so I was alone a lot of the time. And I was put in boarding school because I had behavioral problems. Had to repeat first grade. Just, I was told that I was learning disabled because I fell from a tall place on solid concrete. I went through the boarding school and I had complete abandonment. I felt like no one loved me. And I had one friend called Shaune Patel. And I nurtured this. He was Indian. He was kind of like the runt of the litter. I nurtured him. I had a purpose in this boarding school to give love to a person. And this person, I was probably 8 or 9 years old, would receive that love. The defining moment that actually began to shut this thing down that I'm now cracking open was when he looked at me in the eyes. He said, Kaya, he says, I'm not your friend anymore. And I received that. And I was just confused because he was my world. And I'm not talking about I'm just talking about like friendship, love and friendship. When I received that message, I was confused. And I said, why? He says, because you didn't wish me good luck on my math test. You didn't wish me good luck on my math test because you forgot that. I'm not your friend anymore. And I lost everything. I remember going into the bathroom crying profusely for an hour because I had dad was MIA, mom was not there, never felt love from my family. I'm all alone in this school. And the one thing I have, this one person that I can have a purpose to helping him and I can receive something from that. I can have a purpose in there, says to me, I'm not your friend anymore. I looked in the mirror and I remember as perfect as it's day, like right here, I'm looking in the mirror and I'm saying, I will never, ever love anybody ever again. I will never put myself through this. And that has been something that's.
I want to borrow that. I want to borrow that for a moment. My name is Kaya. I want you to think about your life right now.
Yes.
And as you think about your life, ladies and gentlemen, as you think about who you are, and it's been said, you are today what you were when. One of the things I want you to do is begin to reflect on a moment that as a result of that moment, you were never the same again. Shaune Patel was a friend of mine, a friend that meant everything to me. And Shaune Patel one day said, Kaya, I'm not going to be your friend anymore. That was earth-shattering. I couldn't understand why. How many of you ever had an experience where someone you love, someone you believe in, someone that was always there for you, but something happened and the relationship no longer took place? It said that people come in your life, some for a reason, some for a season, and some for a lifetime. And at that moment, Shaune Patel, when he spoke to me, I became aware that we have served a season. Here I was, coming out of a dysfunctional household, not having a good relationship with my mother or father, and in this place, and the only person I believed in and who loved me, Shaune Patel said, I don't want to be your friend anymore. In a movie called Touch, Denzel Washington said, there are moments in life, there's before this and there's after this, and after this, nothing will ever be the same again. And here's what I'd like for you to write down right now. You are enough. That even though Shaune Patel decided he was no longer going to be my friend, what I realized is what I didn't have that counted, his friendship, his love, his loyalty, his commitment. But what I do have, my unconditional love for myself, my realizing that I am enough. Marion White said in life, when you don't have enough courage or insight to know that you have outgrown a situation and it's time to move on, life will move on you. I outgrew Shaune Patel. And there's some people in your life that you're going to outgrow. And I say to you, you are enough.
Wow.
So that's how I take a story and work it.
I love it. I love it. I love it. And we are all enough.
Yes.
And I think that that's perhaps.
Yes. And I say we can build a whole speech on that. You are enough.
You are
have
enough.
a seminar, a weekend training. You are enough. Because the reason that people commit suicide is because they are operating from a deficit. They don't think that they're enough. They don't think that they are more than able. They don't see themselves as more than a conqueror. They don't see themselves as being able to handle what life throws at them. So that's how I get my speeches. That's how I process it. That's how it comes to me when I drop it in the computer, when I give it to spirit.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Thank you for that gift, Les. I love you.
Thank you. I love you
for that gift. All right, we are almost there. Leadership. So leadership. What is your, when I asked Mayor Paul Leon, my dear friend, and I did a similar interview, I said, what is your leadership trait? He says, always show up. I show up to everything. He said, actually, in the city of Ontario, one day there was a Black Lives Matter movement, and it was being covered on the news. And he actually got out of his office. He went there and he met these people that were protesting on the street. And he talks about that everybody was thinking he was crazy. Why are you going out there? That's crazy. He said, I always show up to everything. And he started to communicate to them and create an agreement where they agree. And then, it was just an amazing experience that was also covered by the news. So I want to ask you, for Les, back to that time when you were coming out in the Georgia Dome, what was the leadership principles that you lived by at that time in your life?
Be the message that you bring. Don't practice what you preach. Preach what you practice. Live from a place of integrity. Judge a man not by what he does, but what he does that he doesn't have to do, and to judge the true quality of a man and what he does when no one's looking.
This is really huge, and I'm going to suggest perhaps that it's maybe one of the most important things. That when I heard it in the very beginning, you said, walk your talk, lead by example, be an example of what you preach. What do you feel is the disconnect why many people, or a few people, are speakers, are coaches, but their house is not in order?
I believe because in order to encourage people, and I tell the speakers that I train, that they have greatness in them and inspire them to become risk takers and get out of their comfort zone, because in order to do something they've never done, they've got to become someone they've never been. That they must live an achievement-driven life. You can't go around teaching what you don't know and leading where you don't go. What have you done? What have you accomplished? What impact have you made? And we have a lot of people who are talking heads, who haven't done anything, who don't know what it is to fail, who doesn't know what it is to create a movement that they believe in, something that's in their heart. As much as they have chosen it, it has chosen them. Shaune, the work that she's done on a volunteer basis with foster kids, as much as she's chosen that, she was chosen for that. She had to do that. She can't help it.
Absolutely.
And the work that you do.
Yeah.
You have to do this. This is who you are. This is you at the cellular level.
Yeah. It's almost like it found me. In my 20s and my 30s, I always say I was walking around like a zombie, had no purpose, had no direction, was living totally at effect, or we call it angry and victim to life. My dad wasn't there, my mom this, blaming everybody. And it was that moment when I watched The Secret, and a person that we both are familiar with, tall, skinny, with a white hair, says something similar to, you have greatness within you. He said, you create your experience of reality. And I was like, huh? I create this life that I'm having in 20s and my 30s? You got to be bananas. I wanted to turn that movie off. That movie, by the way, is the hit movie, The Secret. I was angry. And then he also said, if you have a dream, you wouldn't have the dream if you didn't have the capability to achieve the dream. And I'm getting angrier and angrier because there's this other side of me that you talk about it less as the inner you, that's fighting to come out, that's fighting to be birthed. And I've got all this programming, neuro-linguistic programming of all these beliefs these values of I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, I'm dumb. I mean, I spent my 20s and 30s just thinking I was dumb, was stupid, was an idiot. Repeating first grade and taking longer to figure stuff out. So I'm loving this as we get to leadership. You're talking about being the person that you want people to see in the world. Like, so creating the results, walking your talk, creating the results, as opposed to being a talking head. Lead by the integrity that you are actually doing what you teach and what you say. And I'm going to suggest that for leaders, I think that is the most difficult thing, because it's easy to get up and talk. It's another thing to actually go in your life and do the hard work of self-reflection and, taking care of your family and being the father, being the son, being the brother, being the instrument for people when no one's looking, right? When no one's looking, how do you show up? It's easy to show up when everyone's looking, but how do you show up when no one's looking? So to me, that hits home really big.
It's also very easy to be great when things are going well, and not so easy to be in your greatness and certain of your greatness and functioning from your greatness when things are falling apart around you. It's hard not to internalize that. So what do we do, Kaya? How do we not internalize that?
Well, let me step in here.
Yes.
At Cleveland Hospital last week, they used the term palliative care. So I asked Denise Zama, I said, what do they mean by that? And she said, they're not treating the cancer anymore. It's metastasized to your spine. The goal is to make you comfortable. And I got a call from my son, John Leslie, and I told him, and he said something to me that I agree. He said, Dad, you don't want to become comfortable. You want to become combative. And so when they said, as diplomatically as they could, get your affairs in order, that meant to me, become combative. Life is a fight for territory. And once you stop fighting for what you what you don't want will automatically take over. Get your affairs in order. Get in alignment with your mind, your heart, your spirit, and the calling on your life. And speak to your body. And speak to the world. And make the mark that you're supposed to make until you drop. That's where I am. That's where I stand. For I can do no other.
That's almost less like the mic drop right here. Boom.
Like the two of you.
That's like the mic drop. Boom. All right, Les, I love it. Actions. At the time, Georgia Dome, right? So basically, we've covered purpose, motivation, emotions, values, beliefs, meta programs, your behaviors, strategies, self-talk, sales ability, your leadership principles. What about the actions? What were the actions that you were taking that will support someone in also creating the outstanding results that you had then for them now?
The action is to doing it everywhere. Tony talks about massive action. They said a calling is something you love so much that you do it for nothing, but you do it so well that people will pay you to do it. I speak everywhere. I've spoken to an empty room. I speak to flowers. I talk in my sleep. Do it everywhere. It's your passion. There's a difference between being in something and that something being in you. It's a difference between involvement and commitment. We know it. We have bacon and eggs. The chicken was involved. The pig was committed. He had to give it all up. A.L. Williams said, all you can do is all you can do. And all you can do is enough. But make sure you do all you can do. When I ask an audience, how many of you know that if you had your life to live over again, you could have done more than what you've done thus far? And most people in a moment of honesty raise their hands because we know in our heart of hearts we can do more. Then why is it that we don't? It's because we live in a world where we're told more about our limitations rather than our potential. If I said to you, and MIT did a study, Kaya, you can't have your dream. Somebody else has to come along and say, Kaya, you can do it. Kaya, you can do it. Kaya, don't listen to Les. You can do it 17 times to neutralize that one time. That's why my favorite book says faith comes by hearing and hearing and hearing. And so what we do as speakers, what we do as coaches and presenters, is that over and over and over again, through review, repetition, and reinforcement, create a significant emotional event, a defining moment that allows a person to live out of their imagination as opposed to their history.
Wow, I love it.
Mm-hmm.
That ties into Think and Grow Rich, right? Auto-suggestion. Every single day, auto-suggestion, surrounding ourselves with by the way, Les, when I called your voicemail, wow, what a powerful outgoing voicemail you have.
Thank you.
When you talk about the people that you surround yourself with. Can you share that with just everybody right now real quick?
We earned within $2,000 to $3,000 of our closest friends. And so Dr. Dennis Kimbrough out of Atlanta said, if you're the smartest one in your group, you need to get a new group. And so in order for people to begin to get out of their head and live into their greatness, they've got to upgrade their relationships, practice the principles of OQP, only quality people. Let go or be dragged. Let go of the toxic, negative relationships, or they will drag you down.
I love it.
And then he ends that message by saying, please leave me a message. And if you're one of those people, I will not be calling you back.
Yeah. So I was thinking to myself, is Les going to call me back? Good book? That was hilarious. I started to ask myself, am I bringing value to the table with Les? I better be bringing value. Otherwise, he's not going to call me back.
Right.
You bring a lot of value. I love you.
I love you, Les. We all love you. So just wrapping this up real quick for everybody, I just want to give us a sense. I know, by the way, pardon me for the craziness. I'm going to get 2 of these so I don't have to write too much. But basically, we started with purpose, motivation, emotions, values, beliefs, meta programs, behaviors, strategies, self-talk, his sales outlook at that time, leadership and actions. All of this and the distinctions that Les shared with us is what has built his career. It's what is built. It's the distinctions of his greatness in terms that we can understand in coaching, where we can model this. So now we know what the model of excellence is. What I'd like to invite everybody on Facebook to do is to write down a date. We're going to actually be in communication with you. We're going to have a day event where we're going to have the incredible Les Brown and some individuals that we are working with that are at the peak. One of them is going to be Marty Rodriguez, Century 21, top producer in the history of Century 21 system. Tigran Basmajian, the #1 New York Life managing partner. Mayor Paul Leone. I'm also looking to get an interview, just like we just did with Les, with Mayor Eric Garcetti in the next few days. We're working on that too. And what we want to do is have an event called Models of Excellence, or it actually may be called Models of Greatness. Because we might just go with Les's term, Models of Greatness.
Love
Well,
it.
the reason is, if you see a Larry Bird who used to play for the Boston Celtics, no one will ever say he was an excellent player. Wayne Gretzky, no one ever will say he was an excellent player. Muhammad Ali, you won't use the word excellent. Michael Jordan, no, you won't use excellent. Anybody through practice and repetition can perform at the level of excellence. But when you're talking about greatness, that's a whole different arena, and few there be that reach it.
Well, guess what just happened, Shaune?
Models of greatness just
What
happened.
just happened is the one and only Les Brown has now officially changed this word. The next interview I do is going to be Models of Greatness, and the event is going to be Models of Greatness. So, Shaune,
that, ladies and gentlemen, is called coachability.
This is I'm coachable. I receive. Unless, one more thing. So in the context of all this, what doesn't work? What's something that you'd like to improve in the context of your career as a speaker presenter? Something that isn't quite amazing or great, something that doesn't work, something that could be improved, or a problem or challenge you come across that you'd like to overcome?
I believe that you can always better your best. And we must be open to that possibility.
So what does that look like for you? What would be something that you could do better than you've already done?
I've seen a glimpse of it. I've trained some speakers that can go with me toe to toe, and many of them, not many, but about 7 of them are better than I am.
I'm coming for you, Sensei. I'm coming for you.
In what? They're better than you are in what specific? Because they're not better than you in coming from the heart. They're not better than.
Yes.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yes. Kevin Bracey. Yes. Shaune Arnold. Yes. Yes, they are. Dwight Pleasure. Yes. I mean, I've won. I just talked to him, Delatoro McNeil, and I spoke, and he had to come after me. And I always knew he watched me very closely. He came to my house in Potomac, Maryland, right after college, and he studies me very well. He has that mindset. I'm going to get you. I want to get you. And he came after me. I had to speak. And he said, you know, my mentor talked about you got to be hungry. He said, when you're hungry, you'll eat anything. I want to talk to you about going from a hunger to a craving. He said, when a woman is pregnant, and if she's craving ice cream, don't bring her a sweet potato pie. A craving is specific. And let me tell you, when he finished with that craving, I wanted to hide in the parking lot with a stick.
Get those knees as he comes around the corner.
That's right.
So Les, are you saying that right now you want to go from hunger to craving?
No, I'm saying he milked that. I won't even touch it. He milked it.
Okay.
He milked it. I'm leaving it alone. There's some things you just leave alone. Okay.
So what's something we could do right now that would give everybody a taste of NLP, that would be fun, that would take 1 or 2, 3 minutes, that would be something that would take your model of greatness 1 or 2 notches even higher? What's something?
I don't know NLP. Shaune is going to teach me. I have not a clue. I know nothing about it at all.
Okay, I'll ask you this: is there any belief about yourself, albeit you've got a lot of empowering beliefs? Is there any belief about yourself when you go on stage that hinders you in any way, shape, or form in what you do? Or if Shaune
I know a belief. He thinks he can't sell from the stage. He's amazing from the stage.
I don't want to do that though. I just want to sell greatness. I just want to be focused. There's something you said earlier, and it was Bruce Lee. What did Bruce Lee said? He said he doesn't fear a man that can throw 1,000 punches. He fears a man who has practiced and worked on one punch 1,000 times. That's me.
I love it.
That's all I want to do. I just want to sell greatness. I'm not interested in selling products, having people run to the back of the room. If they get it, fine. But my mission on this earth, what God has given me, is to sell people on their greatness. Greater is he that's in you than he that's in the world. That's all I want to do. And it served me well.
That's beautiful. Well, we agree with you, Les. We're just asking you, if you're the statue of David, what's that last little bit of marble that we could chip off to make an even more perfect statue that you already are. So nothing comes to mind?
Oh, yes, to
What?
replicate myself, to train a cadre of speakers, 77 that will change the world, that will go beyond what I've done, that will make a greater impact, that will give people a larger vision of themselves, that will ignite their spirits. And as a result of the stand they take with their life, we are in God's pyramid, the world will never be the same again.
Wow, do you guys feel the passion when he
Yeah.
just said about his new goal? So if that's something that you're working with to duplicate yourself and create 77 speakers,
Yes, the 7 is my
So-
lucky.
what stands in the way of that, or what would help you get there easier, faster, quicker, better? What stands in the way?
It's a system and a team to help to vet the people, because most people are not serious. You know, say the road to life is straight and narrow, and few there be that find it. Many are called, the few are chosen, because few are hungry. I'm looking for 77 people that are hungry, that are fueled by a desire to serve God, to make an impact with their lives.
And how can we support you in doing that? Because you've given to us so much today that we want to like reciprocate in some way. How can we support the Les Brown in actualizing that dream sooner than later?
I would love for them to watch You've Got to Be Hungry on YouTube, and then email me at lesbrown77@gmail.com and say, I'm the one. I'm the one. lesbrown77@gmail.com, and we will vet them. We will have a screening process. We're going
Yes, amazing.
to find the people that are hungry.
And Les, what's the criteria? What are 3 or 5 things about that person that they should be able to say yes to know that they're in the ballpark of even being selected in that group?
I'm going to let the panel put that criteria together. That's not what I do. I'll give that to someone to do that.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. Well, Les, I'm speechless. I feel like I'm going to review this 2 or 3 times. I'm going to write this up. And I'm also wanting to create a book, which probably now may need to be Models of Greatness, and have definitely maybe the first chapter with you on there and your story on it, and to be able to impart a different perspective. How was this experience for you, like, Les? Answering these.
I've never had this type of thorough questioning before, and I'm so glad you pulled so much out of me. You were born to do this. I believe this is a moment with God, and I thank you for who you are and for this experience.
Well, thank you, both of my senseis, for being with us this afternoon. Kaya, I would love it if you could just send us off with some general words of advice for the folks who've been so patient and loving and excited and chatting with us today, how they can look at what you've done on that piece of paper and maybe listen to this tape again and sort of reconstruct that for themselves so that they can begin to have those deeper conversations with themselves and tap into their own innate greatness.
That's a great question. I'm feeling that there is an event that Les can do with Shaune and myself where we can actually have Les teach his tools and techniques on how he evokes the story from a person and how he gets them to come from their heart, while at the same time we learn what are the distinctions and what are the qualities that we can bring out in our purpose and our motivation, our emotions. So basically, in a nutshell, I would say NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, the study of human excellence, updates the software of our mind and updates the software of our neurology. So if we want to look at this, it's going to be very difficult for anybody just to look at this and become it. We actually have to go through a process of transformation. We actually have to be in the room with Les Brown. We have to be able to hear him be close to him. We've got to be able to learn this thing called NLP, neuro linguistic programming. We've got to learn processes like timeline therapy. We've got to learn processes that can help us model this, take this model of the world and install it within us. Essentially, what we want to do is take this model of the world and install it within us. So I'll give you an example. Beliefs. He has a belief that know who you are, give it everything, embrace who I am. If we have a limiting belief of I don't know who I am, I don't even know what my purpose is. Half of the day as I wake up and I feel like I'm overlooked, I don't have value, I'm not important. That's an example of a limiting belief that we need to change. So in NLP, we have a belief change process that can do that. Values. Some people have conflicts in their values. Some people don't even know what they value. NLP and timeline therapy has a process that you get to discover what are actually your values that are driving your behavior and how to change them. Behaviors. Some people say one thing, but they do another thing. One of the biggest things Les talked about in the beginning is you want to be a leader, lead by example. Do what you're speaking about on stage. Do it in your life. Walk with integrity. A lot of us, me included, we're human. We say one thing and we don't quite do it all the time. So that's a conflict between what I say and what I do, which is another NLP process called parts integration. So there's processes. So what I wanted to do, my big picture with this, is to have an event where we can invite you and Les Brown can be the catalyst for all of us to change. And we can incorporate what he does and how he's able to teach people to change. And we can incorporate some of the NLP and timeline therapy processes that will help take this model and bring us within us.
That's amazing.
I have thought of a date, and that date is Wednesday, July 25th. Les doesn't know about the date yet, but it's going to be in Los Angeles. And
I like the 25th because 2 and 5 is 7.
2 and 5 is 7.
And I like July because I'll be back in the country by then.
It's a Wednesday. It's going to be a full day event. And what we want to do is we want to get the details of that all solidified. And we're going to let you know about the specifics and then how you can register for that event. And then Les and I and Shaune will hop off in a moment. We're going to actually plan. How does that sound, Les?
That sounds great. I'm looking forward to it.
Awesome. How does that sound, Shaune?
Oh, it sounds magical to me.
Sounds magical.
So, if I may, I know that we have been on the line for quite a while and people need to go get some sustenance. Les needs to rest. So I want to thank you both for being with us today. I want to thank everybody that joined us on Facebook today. Please pay close attention to Kaya's posts because we are going to let you know about that summer date when you can come and learn how to tell your story to impact the world and how to change the conversation in your head to the extent that it's not supporting you to make yourself the greatest version of you that ever could be. Thank you, everybody, for joining us.
Thank you. Love you. Thank you so much. Take care.
Bye-bye,
Love you guys.
everyone.
Love you, Les. Love you, Shaune.
Bye. Love you too.
You guys.
Bye.
Talk to you guys soon. If you want to go to the website, it's www.krsuccess.com. Look up Les Brown, watch the I'm Hungry video, and send us an inbox message. Again, it's Kaya Redford, and we will get back to you shortly with the details of the upcoming event. Love you, Shaune.
Love you too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.